Well, that's one of those questions. Can creativity be taught? It's kind of like one of those questions of what is art?
Right.
Uh, I think you can be creative by example, and then students can see that example.
But there is the thing is that some students can't be they just can't be influenced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They just still wander around. What is it all about? They just can't quite get it. And creativity it's a hard thing to sort of describe, right? And it's sort of elusive, isn't it? But you're right. Example is probably the best thing. But
yeah, I couldn't think of a better way to introduce the concept and
show
them by doing it.
But it is interesting how some students, you show all the students the same thing,
mm-hmm.
and some still don't get it, and some get it more than you thought they would get it, and it's really interesting that I don't know whether it's personality or is it.
But I bet you no matter what techniques you used in teaching, you'd always find that breakdown, different kind of responses or results. So maybe I started wondering when I retired whether teaching was a positive thing or not.
And what you come up with?
Well, I'm not sure, but it seems like teaching was introducing thoughts into their life rather than getting them to express thoughts.
Oh.
Somehow, I wondered if it was a contaminant.
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm sure you were an inspiration. I mean, your students always seem very happy around you.
Well, I'm not talking so much personally. I'm just talking about, the concept of putting somebody in a classroom and telling them something. That is true. I don't know.
Well, what else are they going to do? Wander around?
I don't know. I think they're just going to get possessed by the desire to make things.
Yeah. So, yeah, but if you're not there to show them that something could be done, they may not think of it. And there's probably more people that if you show them this is what you can do, I think that's better than not being there and just sort of go sort of discover life. And
yeah, really, you got to have some starting points.
Yeah.
So I'm real confused myself, and I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore.
Well, what I'm confused about is that I was always told practice makes perfect. And I've seen these artists, and they've worked for 30 years, and they're not any better than the first day that they started. So that's really odd to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that is just because they never understood the first concept, that they never sort of. And so I'm wondering if the whole thing is that there are some that are there people that are. Do you think that there are people that are predisposed to be artists or not? Or
yeah, I do think they are predisposed maybe to attempt to communicate in certain ways or attempt to justify their life in certain ways, doing things with their hands.
Justify their life? That sounds so pitiful. Oh, man.
It's raw, but I think it's me.
Okay.
Who am I? I'm the guy who makes these things. And I measure my life by the things that I make. And then let everything else, social and so on, kind of fall by the wayside and sacrifice them to exploring the potential of the development of the ideas. Pathetic, isn't it?
Well, no.
Craft versus fine art.
This goes. There's a question that kind of tags onto this discussion you're having right now. Is you were saying, you see so many people start out, they're making work, they never really get any better. And that was that last question I had, is that most people who set out in the arts fail at their tasks.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting that from. Why do you think that that's the case?
I think how many people really end up making important work.
But also,
really
what
good
is
work. Ultimately, of all of the people who set out to make art, to get degrees in art, how many people really end up doing something that's significant or important down the road?
Because life gets in the way, so it's
Yeah. But so why do you think that there are really only a few people that really kind of push through all of that? And what ultimately is success as an artist? How would you ultimately define success as an artist? What
or I guess you could ask, why is it that we're at these ages and we're still
why are you still
going?
doing this?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a really great
and that
question.
there's a whole bunch of our classmates
Yeah.
that have fallen by
Restate that.
Yeah.
Restate that.
That's so important.
Let them talk.
Okay.
Restate that in a question. Then.
Go ahead.
Yes.
No,
Is that-
I guess this is an interesting idea is that why are we still making art? And there's so many of our quote classmates that aren't, that they just stopped.
Mhm.
Now, was it because they didn't have the desire to continue? Was it just like Julio says, oh, well, I started doing clay because there was a girl in the clay class? Was it because of romance that died? And so, well, the art died with it. Why are we still going?
Well, I think there's a mental problem that has to be taken
It has to
care
be
of
dealt
by
with.
making things.
Okay, I see.
I say it with positive attitude.
So if you don't make work for a month, what happens?
I get real anxious about well, I got to keep going. How am I going to come up with I got to keep. This is me.
Right.
I got to be productive.
Yeah.
And I never lost that. But I do know, lots of art students who do those things.
And I find it hard to believe that they just stopped. It just.
There's other things to do.
Yeah, I know. I can't.
You
think
raise
of-
your kids. You go shopping.
Yeah,
You run, or
doesn't seem very important to me. So
see, that's why you're still an
Yeah,
artist.
right. I mean, not that that's anything to be proud of, right?
Well, time will tell.
I'm kidding. Yeah. But yeah.
But I think the people who can stick with it, I think they have a need that.
I know I started losing my identity after if I don't do it. If I go say 2 months without doing it, I start thinking, no, well, who am I? I'm not Tony anymore. I'm just I don't know who I am. So yeah, it's weird.
It's fat Elvis.
I'm-
You're over with.
Oh man, I so long to be the thin one again.
No, I'm the kind of guy who would say anything to try to be funny.
That's nice. I'm glad. I'm glad you care.
Doesn't always work.
No, you're fine. But it is an interesting concept that was kind of obsessed, sort of. Right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
And I think, and
Good.
I've been reading about Arneson lately, and he's been he was quoted quite a few times saying that he was obsessed with making art too, and I never thought of him that way. I thought he loves making art. That's him making it, but I never thought of him as obsessed because he didn't seem like he was. Well, every time we go to the studio, we always had tons of people over there, so it seems to me that he would have kicked everyone out all the time, but
Well, most of the time, there probably wasn't anybody there.
that's good. Yeah.
In both of you use different, like off-colored sort of types of humor. I mean, Tony, you find it in sort of the in the absurd. You find a lot of absurdness and nostalgia, and that's an interesting idea that there's humor in absurdity, that there's humor in the absurdity of nostalgia, and that sort of, in a sense, is sort of dope in some ways
Yeah,
too.
that's true. Yeah. Whenever I think of anything serious, or when with a serious subject matter, I'm always thinking, how can I twist it and make it more humorous? And I don't know where that comes from. I guess it comes from I was saying in the profile that my parents would drag us to go see these really heavy movies, and I just hated that feeling of watching a Ingmar Bergman movie and just going, oh God, life is just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I put on a Christmas album, it's not just a Christmas album. It's one that's making fun of it. I never sort of figured out why that was, but that's what I'm drawn to. How about you?
How about me? What?
Oh, of course. Sorry.
I like the Chipmunks in Christmas
Yeah.
music.
I mean, can you sit down and put a CD on of just straight?
No, I don't really have any reason to do that.
No.
I'd rather listen to hillbillies playing fiddles.
Me too.
But I think we were talking about humor and the different kinds of humor that there are, and to me there's maybe I got it from the comic books. Maybe I got it from the idea of the Mad Doctor's Laboratory. This mixture of humor and horror seems to me something to deal with. Mixing humor and horror. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it gives you a feeling of relief when you realize that the horror isn't real, and that it's not really in your life. But I don't know. But I think if I had a common theme to tie all of my work together for almost a lifetime, it would be that there's this mixture of humor and horror. Or that there's this humor of the Mad Doctor, Frankenstein kind of thing. And that's a lot different, I think, than your...
Yeah. Well, it is in a way, because the thing is that what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get out of that darkness.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shine a light, because I hate the whole idea of this heavy, burdensome, weight of the world on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always trying to get it off my shoulders. I mean, not that I have that much in my life that's burdensome, but somehow I remember as a child, growing up with Reagan telling everybody that, oh, we could survive a nuclear war, and watching all those old foreign movies, and it was pretty depressing back then. As far as, I mean, I had a good childhood anyway, but just that whole idea of life instead of death, and light instead of sort of heavy, just appeals to me. So it's a little the same, because you've got the Frankenstein, which is sort of my darkness, and then you've got the humor, which I share with you. But it's just that I'm more fighting like real stuff, like Ingmar Bergman movie, and you've got the Frankenstein. I mean, I don't know if it's real or not, but it's a different kind of. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about either.
Okay, good.
But
Here's sort of a political question.
Oh, good.
One of you could ask the other. How does the reality of the modern world influence your work?
And what's the good follow up on that after that?
Well, just
no, just hold on. This is a follow up after that. The difference between good art and bad art.
Oh boy.
what was the first one point again?
Yeah, our attention span's pretty
So
small.
we're talking about political questions, and we could to tie this to art. Saying, how does the reality of today's world,
Reality.
or how does the reality of the world that you live in
Escape reality.
have worked in? How has that influenced what you make? Is that if that's a political
I don't
reality?
think it actually has influences at all.
No.
I mean, the problem is that this is what I keep thinking about when I'm making my stuff. I keep thinking, oh, this stuff's so out of date. What am I doing here? What was this? I'm I'm sculpting this stuff, and people are doing all this 3D animation stuff, and but then I think, well, I can't stop doing it, and and then I think, well, why does that pendulum swing so quickly in figurative stuff, non-figurative stuff, sculptural, conceptual, and just keep swinging back and forth, and you're in, you're out, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why can't they just stay over here for 70, 80 years and then us die, and then they can swing back, do something else, But it's isn't it a little disconcerting when you look at the magazines and you think, none of this has anything to do with what I'm making.
Well, I haven't looked at an art magazine for years.
Okay,
so
well, let me
what
tell
you're
you.
talking about.
Let me tell you, it's just full of conceptual stuff, which is fine. But I would hope that we were a little more generalized than that. So anyway, I'm just complaining about the art world again. That's really silly.
Mhm.
Okay, what was your part? What was it?
Well, do you think is there too much intellectualism in the art world these days?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to complain about that, or I don't know that much about the art world. So
I don't either.
Good art versus bad art. What do you
yeah.
think? Yeah. What do you consider good art? What do you consider bad art?
I have a whole philosophy about this.
Well, there you go.
I believe, and I'm probably completely ignorant about this, but I don't think that there is any bad art in the world. I think that, well, let me see. Where's that go? I don't think there's any bad art in the world. I think that either you don't understand it, either you haven't read enough about it, or you haven't accessed what the person's trying to tell us. I think there might be bad technique in art, but I think that there isn't any. Really, I just think there's good art, and there's art that can't really be classified. Does that make sense?
No,
Oh,
but it's close enough.
okay.
I agree with you.
Oh, good.
I just remember one time I was looking over the shoulder when Manuel Neary was selecting graduate students to go to Davis, and he pointed out this one. This is the worst painting. Let's take him.
Yeah. Emmanuel would do that kind of thing. Yeah. Let's take But when you look at a piece of art, you must look at it viscerally, right? You don't look at it like the composition is this way or
I'm somewhat aware of visual dynamics, and I take that into account. But then there's more, and if it all adds up in some mysterious way, it seems good to me. Then that's all I can say is there's some mysterious satisfaction. Then I say, okay, I'll give that a plus.
Right.
And if there isn't any, I'll give it a minus. I think my wife Betty's a good example. Is she around? She's never had a drawing lesson in her life. She doesn't know how to draw. She will not look at a picture of you to draw your portrait. She'll only do it from memory, which is kind of foggy. And she knows nothing about visual dynamics, and yet they're so genuinely said.
Yeah.
That I like them.
Yeah.
And they violate everything else that I would have been teaching if I was a teacher.
Yeah, they're great.
So, but I mean, that's just an example of somebody who just breaks all the rules, and yet I sleep with her anyway.
Well, that's very good of you. Very big.
It's for my personal satisfaction anyway.
Okay, good. That's funny.